Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about one of the new exceptional support gems, which is probably one of the, if not the most ridiculous support gem I've ever seen. It's Minion Pact. Now, when I first saw this gem in the PoEDB data mine, I thought, oh, Minion, I can skip it, right? As I usually do. But then I realized, wait a second, this is actually not for Minion builds at all. The support sacrifices a Minion for one of your spell casts to give you a amount of flat physical spell damage equal to a certain percentage of the minion's life that you sacrifice. Now, we'll go over the details of how much exactly that is. Spoiler alert, it's absurd, but also this snapshots with certain skills, especially Blade Vortex. But there's also another new support gem that fits right into this, which is companionship support, which gives you like 70% more max life to a minion if it is your only minion. So what you do is you get a Spectre, in this case Dark Marionette, which respawns over and over and over in your map, and it just goes mayhem. I'll show you my exact setup later, but this is not really supposed to be a build guide. I just want to show you this, and then you can make your own version if you want to, or wait for the build guide in a few days. But I need to talk about the support gem. So first up, this is how it looks like. Support spells, skills that hit enemies and have no reservation. Now, it can't be used on brands, which is important, I guess, orbs, channeling skills, and whatnot. So you cannot snapshot on something like a channel skill. Now, there's a lot of ways this works with certain skills, with certain setups, but I will only talk about the non-clunky one, which is Blade Vortex. Because what happens with Blade Vortex is pretty simple. Blade Vortex, whenever it creates its first iteration of stacks, snapshots that damage for the rest of the duration. Even if you respawn blades after, it doesn't matter. Only the first iteration matters. So what does that mean? So that means, I will quickly show you this. So this is how you do it. There's a perfect Dark Marionette, which is the minion that spawns over and over. As of my knowledge, Dark Marionette, it doesn't matter if you have a perfect one, a normal one, the corpses are all the same. And also, I don't think the corpse level matters, and it takes your Ray Spectre level, but do note that I'm not especially when it comes to minion build, so if that is incorrect, I'll pin that in the top comments, but that is my current understanding. So you right click it, the corpse is now on the ground, even if you can't see it, and then you press E and you resummon it. Now this is the Dark Marionette. Now you can see right here, whenever I cast Minion Pact, it sacrificed the minion, and the Dark Marionette just comes back a few seconds after. Now you can also make yourself a meat sack, just to be clear, which is going to be even more damage. You're going to see a lot of bossers do this, but the problem is that it doesn't come back like the marionettes. So if you miss your BV at one point, you literally have to portal out of the map and go back in. So if you're bossing, I think meat sacks are very interesting to look into. Otherwise, for functionality, not my cup of tea. If I sacrifice a minion on my first cast, I can just keep spamming if I want to. It doesn't matter, right? Like you see my minion is not back up yet. I can just keep spamming. All of these 10 stacks will inherit the flat damage of the first one. Shout out to Local Identity as well for helping me test this. Now, so you sack a minion, you get flat damage. How much flat damage are we talking about? So this is my current life number on Spectres. If you don't know how to check this, you have to go to Raise Spectre first, then you have to go to Show Minion Stats, Manage Spectres, and you, for example, put in the Dark Marionette, and you have to drag it over to the left side, and then save. There you go. It will tell you right here, Unreserved Life. So if we times 0.02 this, which is level 4 Minion Pact, we can see that I'm currently getting 28,000 flat physical damage. Which in PoB terms, if I tick it off versus ticking it on, yeah, it's pretty absurd. Now my build is going to probably end up somewhere around 500 to 600k, but I'll quickly just show you what I've currently done. So in terms of minion life, you can get it from an Elegant Hubris. For example, here I have Axiom Warden here, Axiom Warden there, 80% each, which is insane. You can also path over here. This is like the budget version. Take this cluster, then take the mastery for 30% minions max life. And then you can also tattoo it on every single one of your int node for 5%. You can make medium cluster jewels with increased effect and get like 16% each on one of these nodes, and that is around about it. And then we have to talk about, obviously, the 4 link on your Raise Spectre. So Raise Spectre, this is currently level 30, which is basically what you want to get to, but probably I won't. It is just kind of hard. I have it in an Azanos with +1 level socketed gems and +2 minion. The +1 also scales the Empower in here. If you have an Awakened Empower, then even better, obviously. Companionship support, completely broken. Even beyond level 3, this does count as a minion gem, so you can see it is level 7 right now. And yeah, it gives me 85% more maximum life if there are your only minion, and then obviously minion life support. Now, companionship support only works if the minion that is supported by it is your only minion. So that means two things. First, under no circumstances use Herald of Purity ever. ever. It will brick the build. Secondly, if you have, for example, a Skeleton Shrine on your Screams of the Desiccated, this will not brick it because these minions are not considered your minions. So if I run up here and the Skeleton Shrine cast these minions, it will always sacrifice my minion. First up, because you cannot sacrifice these. It is the same with Dark Pact. I've tested it over and over. Then, yeah, it still works. Little bit off topic, but this is probably the biggest question I've seen. People think I'm running Skeletal Shrine for some minion sacrifice stuff because it is confusing. But the reason I'm running it is because it gives me Fizz as extra chaos, which on my version of BV is extremely strong. It also scales with Shrine Effect. Same goes for Freezing and Lightning Shrine, by the way. Do not sleep on these. For some builds, getting them on top of something, if you're looking for a semi-budget build, is very, very strong. Now, overall, Minion Pact support sounds complicated, but if you set it up correctly, it just feels like just a normal BV setup with just a ton more damage. But there is one point of clunk here, which is minions can be out of range to sacrifice. And that range is around about this range right here. You can test it out yourself. But if I, for example, shield charge and then I press BV, this was still within the range. So for example, back there, still in the range. But if I do it a little bit more extreme and I spam my BV right now, you can see the minion did not get sacrificed. And that can be bad on your first cast because now I have the shitty version of BV without Minion Pact snapshotted. And if I did consecutive casts, it would ramp up. And even if I sacrificed the minion after, it would never get the damage. This does not really ever happen to me after I've done it, but you need to know it and adjust slightly to it. So what does that mean? If you've just looted and you keep going and your BV stacks fell off after 8 seconds and you never right-clicked, which is usually what I just do. I just right-click every 4 or 5 seconds, so there's never is a problem. Then all you have to do is not click it directly after shield charge, right? That's all you have to do. The range is pretty sizable, so that's about that. Now, I did think about an automation convocation here, but honestly, once you get into the groove of it, you will barely notice this. Also, do note that your Raise Spectre gem can summon multiple Spectres at the same time, which means that if you click it multiple times and you summon more than one, you will break your companionship support. So that's also something to take attention to. Now, what shell or build template do you use this support gem in though? Because there's a lot of different varieties of BV or that you could fit in here because it's flat physical damage. You can convert to whatever you want. So what I came up with together with Void 241, which I'll link to his Twitch channel down below in the description. I'm not sure if he's also going to make a video about this. He's using a slightly different version with Mage Blood. So the thing that I did is Occultist pops. Blade Vortex AoE is just not very big. You want to scale it as much as possible and then get carried by explosions. So something like Occultist is just extremely, extremely strong. And then if you know how to scale your explosions and you actually scale into it, yeah, the pops will follow. So I'm going for a Chaos Conversion shell. The Chaos Conversion comes from Fizz to Chaos from Unholy Might, which I get on crit, which is always up. And then I go Occultist. Occultist is very well scalable because if you scale chaos damage and you do chaos damage, the Explodey from Profane Bloom is quite impressive. You can also go for double Explodey chains with Asenath's Gentle Touch, which I'm currently still figuring out if it's actually overkill or not, but that is a really nice option as well as that you can get really great corruptions for something like your Raise Spectre with +2 levels. But beyond that, I'm also semi-life stacking. So I'm going to end up at around about 9k life with Wrathpith Globe, and you can corrupt these this patch to give you up to 6% spell damage per 100 and 6% spell crit chance per 100. Important to know, this spell damage does not scale your Profane Bloom explosions, so you still want a lot of increased chaos damage, for example, from a Light of Meaning right here, which gives me like 200% or something, and also from Cluster Jewels. Now, this is not your usual life stacker build. I'm not using Dissolution of the Flesh because I honestly hate that item. I hate playing with it, having to be careful sometimes, dying to dots constantly. I absolutely despise it. So instead, I opt for a slightly less damage version, but I'm able to fit in Defiance of Destiny. This build has enough damage to sacrifice its amulet, go Defiance with Petrified Blood, and just be nigh unkillable. As for belt, I already talked about Skeletal Shrine giving extra Fizz as chaos. But the Resistance Shrine here is really the kicker. So we have 90% max res across the board just from the Resistance Shrine plus the goal with the Shrine effect. This just gives an extreme amount of defense, and as long as you can make up for the movement speed with something like a Elusive Onslaught Tailwind boot right here, it's quite strong. Mage Blood might still be better because it also gives you stuff like Curse Immune and Stun Immune on top of being 84 max res. That's still very strong, and I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to end up with this belt, but I found it kind of cute for now. Another thing the belt lets me do is grab the +1 ring slot because the downside of Utility Flask to disable doesn't really matter. Now, one thing I want to point out is Dodra's Elixir is really nice tech with this because you can press it at any point. It is a mana flask. It will not be up ever. And yeah, if you press it, you just get your charges. And you can see, usually you sacrifice a lot of your HP, but we're on 90 max res, and this goes against your chaos res. Now, in terms of AoE scaling for explosions, the usual here, an Unnatural Instinct to get all the AoE right here, get something like the small AoE nodes. I'm going to eventually respec out of Withering Presence and into the AoE from Forbidden Power, but there's also some new tech here with medium cluster jewels, pointed out to me by Void 241, and that is the minion clusters with AoE on them. So there's a new currency this league called something Delirium Fog, was it? Refracting Fog, sorry. It lets you change the base type of a cluster jewel. So what you can do is, first, I crafted this on an area medium to get the percentage AoE with the percent effect. You could basically fully craft this, and then you change it into minions have increased maximum life. Afterwards, it does not change the mods anymore, so it only changes the implicit. It's like a 1 in 19, I think, to get exactly the medium cluster that you want. So with this, I'm scaling quite a bit of just global AoE that works for both my Blade Vortex and my explosions. So if you're asking why I'm not taking stuff like Arcane Expense, this does not work for your explosions because your explosions are not spells. Now, the current version I have is still kind of scuffed around the edges, and I still have to figure some stuffs out, but I just wanted to kind of show you my shell. There's also a Chieftain version of this that has been posted on Reddit, I think 2 times by now, that it looks very promising. The TLDR with BV really is this: if you have Explodies, you're gonna clear well. If you don't have Explodies, it's gonna be a bad time. And BV is just a great skill for this because it snapshots and is fizz scaling. Now, if you need +2 minion skill levels, there's a lot of ways to go about it depending on the market and whatnot and how expensive everything is. But Raise Spectre, you want to get as high level as possible because it increases your life, which increases your damage. Every level is worth around about 10 to 11% more damage on your BV. So all you need to know here is, other than the corruption from a gloves, if you want normal gloves for resistances or whatever, you can also get this Delve mod right here with +2 level socketed minion gems. You can fracture it and then craft on it. The rare gloves would also give you leech, so you can roll for Chaos Leech or Fire Leech, whatever version you're playing of the build, and then you wouldn't have to run a Vitality's Watcher's Eye, which is what I'm currently doing for my leech. The other thing is you can get a +2 Gull on minion gems, and don't forget that a +1 to all gems is equal to a +2 because you're going to have Empower in your setup. But that's all I got for now. I'm only level 93 right now. I'm going to push this build probably to level 100 in the coming days over on twitch.tv/Palsteron. I just wanted to get this build out right now to kind of explain what's going on and to have something to link to when people ask me on stream. So I hope you guys are interested. Once again, I think this could fit into a lot of different shells. So whatever you want to figure out with this, you want to get inspiration from my build guide, whatever, you can make your own version of this. Minion Pact is absolutely busted. If you know what you're doing, this is going to be one of the flagship support gems and build archetypes this league. But yeah, hope you learned a thing or two. And since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.